We're just okay, and we play some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie watchers.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, BIGGIESIZE, and I'm joined by...
Gweedo, hello.
Guys, when do I come in?
Oh my
Come
gosh.
right now.
Oh, hi. Hi, my name is Milpool. I'm a big fan of the show. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course. You know, Milpool, he came to us, was like, it's my dream to be on a super successful and highly lucrative podcast. And, you know, I felt bad for him. You know, Gweedo and I both were, you know, we were sitting in our mounds of money, all that podcast, Spotify, ad revenue, and like, you know what, Gweedo, we should give this guy a shot, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I was skeptical, you know, being that he doesn't have any experience in this, so it's nice to give people a shot.
It is. It's a tough industry.
Yeah, I
you know,
appreciate it. Can I have some money now?
Ooh, we'll see how this one goes, man. I don't know. You have to work hard. You know, it's really tough to go on to anchor.fm, set up a brand new account for free, then get a microphone and talk in it for about an hour till you're blue in the face and then feel like you accomplished something. That's a lot of work. I don't know if you're there yet, but we'll see.
That's fair. You know,
Well,
I googled the quickest way to make money, and podcasting was number one.
Really?
I
Who wrote that
100%
list? You?
Yeah, Google is what I call my
Okay.
notepad, where I write my notes.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Got a couple of shout outs I want to get out there real quick before we jump into the meat of our discussion. Bomb Have is back at it. We finished Star Wars, what was it, like 2 weeks ago?
Oh,
Now
thank
we're
God.
I know. It was kind of fun, you know, although it was a sad reminder going through each one of them of just, you know, the history of all the films and kind of how they start going off the rails a bit. But it was fun. Thank you, Bomb Have, for doing that. But now we're getting to the good shit. We're getting to that Star Trek shit. And oh my God, I'm so excited. He did motion picture last Saturday, and then we're doing Wrath of Khan this coming Saturday. So if you're a big Star Trek fan, or hey, maybe you've never seen the old films, they're really charming. I can't ever say they're necessarily good. Some of them are better than others, but they're at least charming. Go and check it out. It's usually 10 o'clock Central, give or take, on Saturdays. So hop onto the Discord, discord.gg/JustOKGamers. Sign up for the movie tag, because there's movies going on all the time. And we're about to talk about a bunch of them here in just a bit. But before we get to that, you guys mind if I have a little bitch session? And please join in if you feel this way.
Are you talking a classic Biggie-size bitch sesh?
Dude, the one and only. All right, guys. So the past couple of weeks, a lot of TV shows have been coming back on the air. And I've noticed a trend, and it's one I knew was coming, but I didn't realize how much I would hate it. And that is shoehorning COVID into storylines. I hate it. It is lazy. It is, I'm going to say pathetic, because I really feel like it's pathetic. Here's what bothers me. Megan really likes a show called This Is Us, and I kind of like it too. It's not really my bag, but the story is really good. The actors are fantastic. But they threw in COVID stuff, and you could just tell based on just how awkward the exchanges are when it came to COVID, especially the first episode. Like, anyone would walk into a room, they'd be like, no, guys, it's okay. I've quarantined for 14 days. They're like, oh, okay, that's great. Like, oh my God, damn. Like, it's just all over the place with the COVID shit, and it has nothing to do with the story at all. It doesn't help lift the story. It's just, we all got to wear masks. We all got to keep saying social distancing and Zoom fatigue and all these keywords. And it pisses me off because it's so fucking lazy. And it takes a show that I even could kind of stand to watch and admired in some ways to where it's dumpster fire. I'd never want to see it again because it's so crap. That's my bitching. It's terrible. It's so sad. And now a couple of medical shows I like. Oh, go ahead, Milpool.
Oh, I didn't say anything, but
go ahead.
Well, my thoughts on the matter are, my only experience, they did it in Borat, the new Borat movie, kind of a little bit, where they shoehorned it in. But yeah, I don't know anything. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed it in anything that I'm watching. I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now, if we can jump to a game. And it's mentioned in there, which I thought was strange. And also kind of unexpected that they would mention it in a game that they've been in development for a few years.
Yeah, doesn't that also take place thousands of years ago?
Yeah, during the Viking time. They're like, oh, this coronavirus. I was raping this lady and she spit on my face, and now I got the COVID. I have to quarantine in my ship for 14 days.
Yeah, I thought it was really strange how that leader guy like had a Zoom conference with all of his like generals and stuff to plan the attack. Like that's
that was
strange.
pretty weird. Yeah.
I thought they were more of a Skype crew. Like it was so strange seeing them use Zoom, but you know.
Yeah, everybody's got their preference in those days. No, Assassin's Creed. Some of it takes place in the present or distant future, near distant future. And that's when they mentioned it.
Wow, that's surprising. I would have never guessed that because yeah, you're right. Those are usually like 1 to 2 years in development. That's kind of amazing. Like, do they just kind of mention it offhand, or is it like?
Oh, it's very offhand. You read about it in the lady's laptop through an email. So they just were like, "Oh, we better connect with the audience today," and typed it in and threw it in there.
I don't get it because, like, for instance, in that very game, like, it doesn't enhance the story at all. In the same way with all those other shows that I've been watching, like, it doesn't enhance the story. Like, am I supposed to assume that This Is Us is actually happening right now? Like, there's some house out there where This Is Us is happening at the same time I'm living my life. And I'm supposed to just be like, oh my God, at least I'm happy to see that they're going through COVID the same way I am. That really makes me enjoy the story of all these kids' dad who dies in a fire and they're all mad and pissed at each other. That really helps lead the story up. There may be slight spoilers there. I'm sorry, guys. But it's just crap. Now, the medical shows, I can give them a little bit of leniency because I watch, like, Megan really likes Grey's Anatomy. And, I mean, all that
That's
show is...
still on the air?
It's still on the air. Is that not shocking? And, I mean... I'm happy to see something different other than that one lady dog fucking guys that are 20 years younger than her. So it's at least adds something to the story. But like another show I watched, Chicago Med, which is a way shittier medical show. But I kind of like it because it's charming. But
how many medical shows do you watch?
Oh my God, let's see. About all of them. I have a fondness of the medical shows.
Yeah? Were you a big ER fan growing up?
You know, that's one I never watched was ER. And I've been tempted to get into it because it was big when I was little. You know, it was a very popular show.
Yeah, but George Clooney got to start there.
That's right. That's right. So I've been tempted to dip into that and watch it. It's got a ton of seasons too. I don't know how many, but that's my bitch stash. I'm tired of seeing that shit being shoehorned because I've gotten to where I want to watch. Megan loves Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas movies. And I just knew how crappy those are. They're going to throw COVID and Zoom and all this stuff into it, but it's gone. It's not there. So it is an actual, like, nice reprieve going back to just, you know, two people losing their house and finding love somewhere, somehow, and there's Christmas. It's like, wow, this is great. This is an escape from all the COVID media, fictional media that's going on right now.
Yeah, I could see it being a bit exhausting. Plus, you're just hearing about it in real life all the time. You kind of want an escape. That's why we watch this shit, because it's all we can do right now is watch shit.
Right.
So you don't want it thrown in your face there too.
Right. it should be, if you want to do a one-off episode where someone gets COVID and they're trying to treat them, that's fine. Go that route. They do it with cancer and stuff all the time. Do COVID. But don't let it like, we're going to continue the story we're telling, but now everyone's masking up and social distancing and talking on Zoom and talking about how they don't feel connected to people because they're on Zoom. Like, shit, dude, we've lived through that. We're living through that. I don't want to see it in my story. Get on with your damn story. But
is there a COVID story that you'd want to hear right now or see?
Ooh. Well, honestly, when Meg and I sat and watched Contagion, that was so similar to what we're going through now.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Nearly that deadly. Oh, it's a great movie. It shocked us because, we never watched a lot of news. But, if you watch CNN, you run into Sanjay Gupta. He's like their main medical person. And then when Lawrence Fishburne in that film was talking to Sanjay Gupta, actually him, it was like eerie. Like we both looked at each other like, oh my God, this is like what's going on now. But yeah, that's a good COVID story, but it's not COVID, thank God, because that thing was deadly. But yeah, just anything like that where they're like, okay, we've got a patient that's COVID. These are all the symptoms that they're going through, and be like, oh, this is fascinating because this is like what the doctor's actually doing. They're diagnosing them. Maybe one's doing okay, but another one's like going down hardcore, and just see what it's like. It'd be very educational. But so far, I'm sure they'll get to that. But so far, that's not happening. It's all the other stuff because the story's already been written. A lot of these scenes have already been shot. They're just going back and adding masks and stuff. And just adding that commentary when, they're still treating people with gunshot wounds and babies coming out of their mouths and just whatever weird shit they come up with, but not doing COVID at all. That's it. They'll get to it. I'm sick of it right now. It's pathetic writing. Come on, Hollywood. You can do better than this, I think.
Come on, Hollywood. Well, I have an example, if we don't mind moving on to horror stuff, of a good COVID-based movie.
All right, let's hear it.
So during the month of October, we watched 31 horror movies. Pardon?
Can I guess the movie that you're going to say?
Sure.
Is it It Comes at Night?
No, it's not.
No. That's the movie I was thinking about. That is kind of like a COVID-ish story.
Yeah. But this one actually was filmed during the pandemic and then released during the pandemic because it's been that fucking long. And this is a movie called Host. It's a Shudder original. I don't know if you were there for that night, either of you. Anyways, it's probably my favorite horror movie that we watched during this whole month. And it's only an hour long.
Sorry, what movie? Host?
Yeah, Host.
Yeah. No, I watched that with you.
Oh, you did? Good. And it's about it's during the pandemic, so a bunch of friends meet up on a Zoom call and they are just trying to, kill some time, have some fun, while also socially distancing. And they decide to have a seance, like a Zoom seance. And some crazy fucky kind of shit happens. And lo and behold, they summon a ghost. And it attacks them all at once and at different times. And over the course of this Zoom call. And you're watching them all break down and, carrying their laptops through their house because they hear noises and stuff. And I thought it was really good. It really, really spooked me.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. It was, I think it was probably one of the best. It had a lot of good spooky moments. The part with the laptops was like the only uncanny valley part for me, where like, I guess they were using their laptops for light, but like if you're checking your house, it was just kind of weird that they were like turning their laptops facing outward, because that's like essentially the camera view, right? And that's the only way for the audience to see what was going on.
Yeah, I
so
could
that part
see
was
it
kind
be
of
like,
weird, but everything else was really good.
Like bringing your friends with you to feel more comfortable and showing them what you see, I guess. It is a little weird, but it's one of those things that you just gotta get over. But the spook factor of that one was real good, and it was only an hour long, but it felt a lot longer because they kind of hit you with all the scares pretty fast. Like they do the seance, and then one of them disconnects, and then they find out that one of the girls is faking something during the seance and called the wrong name of the person that she was trying to connect to. And that's when all the messed up stuff happens. And then they get the seance person that was leading it back on the call. And she's like, oh, you done fucked up now. Like, you don't make up people that you want to call because it's just opening a door that anyone can walk through. So you don't know what you're dealing with. And it was it's pretty neat. I liked the way that one scared me.
Yeah, it was cool. I thought
Nice.
I thought it was like more tense. Like you said, they brought out the scares right away, but I thought there was a pretty good tension build up.
Yeah, and then it goes crazy like for the last 10
Oh
minutes.
yeah, the end of it is really good.
Very cool.
I think it's worth it. Get the 30-day free trial on Shudder and watch Host. That's probably the only one that I'd recommend that was on Shudder. Because we watched a lot of stinkers, let me tell you.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Do
I would recommend. Sorry, go ahead, Biggie.
No, I was just ask real quick. Do they just have original stuff, or is it also like older horror films as well? Or
Yeah, pretty much anything horror is on there.
Okay.
With the exception of a few that they can't get licenses for. But you can watch the old Nightmare on Elm Streets and all that stuff, the Saw movies. It's all on there. And then they have their originals and some are shows. There's a neat one called The Last Drive-In that's kind of like a Mystery Science Theater take where a guy kind of jokes about old horror movies, which is kind of fun.
I would recommend. I think One Cut of the Dead is on Shudder, isn't it, Gweedo?
Yeah, that is on Shudder.
Yeah, and I don't know if you liked that one as much as I did, but I quite liked it. And I won't describe a lot about it because there's a lot to spoil in it. It's kind of all about like being surprised, but it's like. And Biggie, I don't think you saw this one, did you?
I have not.
Okay, the premise is like it's a Korean film, and in the film they are making a zombie movie. And then they start getting attacked by actual zombies. So that's like the premise of the movie. The interesting part is like the first 40-ish minutes is all one camera take. So that's kind of the hook that got me to want to watch it. But then there's some cool twists that happen in the second and third acts of that movie. So I would recommend that one.
Yeah. You really have to power through that first bit, though. At least for me, it's so ridiculous. You're watching basically a very, very low budget horror movie. And it's tough to get through, but the payoff is worth it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, you kind of have to want to watch this movie, I guess. Although I thought like the continuous camera cut was interesting in itself, just watching how they did that.
Yeah.
Very interesting. No, those both sound really nice. I'll have to go and check that out. Well, I definitely want to get to one film, and we had a listener send this one in. She's been wanting us to talk about it for a while now, and that's Miss Jean Vitrano.
Who that?
Thank you so much for this question, Jean. She wanted us to talk about our thoughts on the film The Invisible Man, which we did watch during our 31 days of horror films during October. Gweedo, I think you hosted that one.
I did, yeah. Oh man, my mom has been on me to talk about this with you, Biggie.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Every time I've seen her since the last podcast, since she sent that email, which was probably a month ago, she's said, Hey, when are you guys going to do the next episode?
Oh.
So
I am so sorry, Gene. I'm so sorry it's taken this long for us to get an episode out. Life's been crazy.
with that said, yeah, it was all right. And the next movie that we're going to talk about is...
Oh, you can't do your mom like that. Oh. Well, for anyone who doesn't know about The Invisible Man, it stars Elizabeth Moss, and she is being haunted by an invisible man. No one believes her. So she goes through the whole movie trying to get people to say, hey, someone's attacking me. Someone's trying to kill me, but I can't see him. And that's the basis of the movie. And I gotta say, I didn't like it, but not because of the premise. What I did not like, I think I guess it would fall into the screenplay area, because Elizabeth Moss is great. She is, if you need a character who's vindictive, who feels like she's been harassed and she's sad, maybe almost depressed, Elizabeth Moss is the best actress for that role. And she does fantastic. And I hope to see her in more horror films going forward, because she does a great job.
She does.
But there's just parts of the film that just did not feel great. Like, she was pretty proactive in trying to figure out who this was. Like the cell scene when she's been locked into that cell, and she knows the invisible man's in there, and she I think she stabs him with something, and it kind of harms the thing. I don't know if I want to get into this. Do we want to get into spoilers? Yeah, the movie's pretty old. Yeah, the movie's pretty old. This is spoiler territory.
I believe that movie came out this year, though.
Oh, was it? I thought it was last year.
Maybe last year. Maybe late last year.
That whole scene at the insane asylum is what really hurt me on the film. Like, I almost couldn't come back to it. Was she stabs him, so it hurts his suit, so you can kind of see him. He kind of flickers in and out of being able to view him. Well, she gets thrown in the hallway, and he kills the cop that was in the room with him. And there's a gun right there next to her, and she's laying on the ground, not necessarily injured or anything, just maybe kind of startled. But then we see a humongous scene of him just murdering 5 or 6 cops. There's guns everywhere, not including the gun that's maybe 2 or 3 feet away from her. But she just sits there. She's been so proactive to try to kill this invisible man by stabbing him and doing all this other stuff that she can't just take a couple steps over and grab the gun and just start blasting him at that point. When this fight scene's been going on for, I say, at least a minute and a half. It's a cool scene if she wasn't there and could have easily have gotten in and ended the whole thing. And then there was another scene when she's out in the parking lot where she gets stopped by him, and then he leaves her by the truck, not hand tied or anything. I think he just had his hand over her mouth, and kills another cop. Then she had another chance to have killed him. So all these cool scenes happen, but you've got a character who wants that person dead, who is capable of having that person dead and has the means to do it. Just they just ignored her. She wasn't there at all. And you have this cool scene happen, but in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, Elizabeth, now. And she just stands there until the camera comes back to her and remembers, oh yeah, she's here too. That's the stuff I hated about the film and just killed me. Because later she does end up shooting him in a scene that makes a lot of sense, but they wanted that scene, but they caused so many things to happen in those prior scenes where that same thing could have happened, but they just didn't do it because I guess they just wanted us to forget she was there, or it just doesn't jive. But that's my biggest problem. Other than that, it looks great. Everyone was pretty good in the film, and I liked how it ended.
Yeah, I thought the whole idea of the invisible man, it wasn't anything paranormal. He was wearing a suit that he created. It was a technological suit, so that was kind of neat. And there's a few twists in it near the end. Actually, just pretty much one twist that was predictable, but also I guess it executed well. Anytime you're watching any of these horror movies, you have to suspend your disbelief. There's so many tropes in them that you know are going to come. And when a person doesn't reach for the gun, you just got to be like, yeah, that's because there's, still 20 minutes of movie left. If they reach for the gun and shoot the bad guy, it's over. The movie's done. So, but yeah, it was serviceable. I wasn't disappointed I watched it, but at the same time, I wasn't, thrilled with it at the end.
Sure. Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I was kind of hoping that, because when we see the machine early on, I was hoping it was like a portal, like some sort of like machine, like he put himself in the machine and it somehow like put him into like an alternate universe or something maybe a little more fantastical. I was sort of hoping for, but when it ended up being the suit, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, it's still cool. How they tried to set it all up to, drive her crazy and eventually kill her, with everyone in her life being basically thinking that she's a nut job. I mean, the whole setup there was really cool, and you like her enough as a character that you root for her, and that's, I think I attribute that to her acting skills. She's really good actress.
Yeah, there were a few moments in that movie too where it was just my expectations of what was going to happen were better than what happened.
Yes.
Like, there's a point where she goes into the house, she's investigating, trying to find out what happened to her dead boyfriend who abused her. And she goes into the house and she finds the suit that he's been wearing. I assumed it was a second suit because he's been stalking her this whole time, following her, and he's been invisible. I assumed that she found a second suit. So I was like, oh shit, she's going to put the suit on and they're going to have like an invisible fight.
Yes.
And like stuff is just going to be getting broken. Like you could have a super cool scene of like a camera panning across a kitchen where stuff's getting thrown in the air and getting broken and you hear grunts and stuff. It could have been super cool. And there were a few moments like that throughout the whole movie where you're just like, man, they could have just done something super cool here. Like, for instance, when she did not reach for the gun, a simple thing, have the Invisible Man like stomp on her hand so she can't hold a gun. That explains everything away, and you get a cool scene of like watching her fingers like crunch on concrete or something with no foot there to see it, like just a body horror kind of moment of a hand crunching. It would have been cool.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea. And even go further when, while he's fighting, she's having to like pop her fingers back into place so she could even try to use the gun. So you get a little like creepy, further going down that body horror factor.
Yeah. It was like there could have been so many cool scenes in that movie, and it just felt like some executive was like, hey, you know what? We haven't had an Invisible Man movie. Why don't we go on Fiverr and hire someone to write us a script real quick, and then we'll produce it and, cash out. Our budget will be a few $1 million. We'll make maybe $1 million, 1.5 million on this film and call it a day. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think it was Blumhouse who made this, so that whole scenario sounds very plausible coming from them. But I will say, I think visually the film looked a lot better than a lot of their previous films. I know sets looked really, really nice and everything like that. It's just, they need some tighter writing, just a little bit more. But overall, solid film. I enjoyed it. I watched it. Just could have been a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, thank you so much for that question. Please, if anyone else has any wants to send any questions about films or see how we feel about them, anything at all, shoot us an email at justokmovies@gmail.com or a tweet at justokmovies.
Thanks, mommy.
So, Milpool, I'm curious. What was another film during the 31 days that you really, really liked?
Well, I got to save the best for right now, I suppose, and that's, God, I don't even want to talk about it.
No, I know what it is. Can I guess now?
Yeah, you can guess.
It's my boy, a Hubie Halloween.
That's right. The best of the best. Adam Sandler's newest movie, I guess.
Yep.
I don't even know. How many movies is he making per year?
Oh my god, like 3 at least.
It seems like he's just cranking them out, and Jesus. I like Adam Sandler too.
Yeah, I
But-
liked him too. I cut him a lot of slack.
Yeah, Uncut Gems. I enjoyed it. He was good in that, although he didn't make that movie.
Right, he was the star, but
I don't even hate Grown Ups that much. It's okay. Grown Ups is okay. It's fine.
It's these Netflix movies, man.
Yeah. No, so tell me about it. Is it? I've heard mixed stuff. I've heard some say it's actually pretty decent, and a lot of people saying it was hot garbage. Is it just trying to like recapture that? Not Billy Madison. Yeah, Billy Madison. That kind of vibe of having kind of a dumb, funky character that's just in a situation, or what makes it good and or bad?
Yeah, I think like my brain is trying to forget this movie, so like you talking about it, I'm remembering things. But yeah, that's like you're right, he's trying to recapture that kind of Billy Madison, the water boy style of comedy, that character that he plays, like the kind of, maybe he's like mentally handicapped kind of character. So for me, it was just like, I don't know how old Adam Sandler is now. He's in his like late 40s or 50s even, but it's just, I felt sadness like watching him try to do this character. It felt awkward. I just felt awkward the whole movie.
Yeah, that's also kind of the way the movie was built. Like, he's playing this mentally challenged person, and for some reason that's not really explained well, the whole town hates him. Like, they pick on him and they bully him. They throw things. It's a running gag to throw weird objects at Hubie Halloween throughout the whole movie.
Huh.
And yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is this person so hated? He seems like a nice person, and he just like wants to bring people joy. But it's just like this excuse for physical comedy. That's the other thing I've noticed is like Adam Sandler, his crutch is like physical comedy, I guess, because there's a ton of it.
There is a ton of it, and some of it does not hit. A lot of it does not hit. But overall, like, it's a bad movie. There's fun moments, though. There are some funny
You're gonna
moments.
have to remind me.
The only one I can remember offhand is Tim Meadows comes out of nowhere. And he's like, Hubie Halloween, look at you, you dumb idiot, or something, making fun of him. And Hubie's like, hey, Tim Meadows, don't you have night school? And Tim Meadows says, I stopped going to night school 3 years ago. And that's the joke. I laughed out loud at that. It was good. There's a few little gems in there like that, but they're few and far between.
So not worth going through 2 hours, give or take.
No. There's a whole mystery element to it, and you're watching it. At least I was watching it, and I just didn't care who the person was that was doing the haunted stuff. And apparently, there's a werewolf about too. It's just strange movie.
Jeez, damn, that is strange, huh? Well, I've got to say, one film I absolutely love. I felt like we started October with just a banger, and that was Crawl. I don't know if any other film has quite gotten to that level that I sat and watched like Crawl did. That was such a good choice, Gweedo.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you liked it. I don't share those feelings.
You don't really?
It was fun for us to sit and watch it. I'm glad we started with that movie because we all had fun. It was so ridiculous. For anyone that doesn't know, a bunch of there's a hurricane. A man is stuck in his crawl space. His daughter goes to find him. A hurricane is happening. The crawl space is flooding, and there's giant alligators that are about because this is in Florida. That's the premise of the movie. And basically, their goal is to get to the roof, so there's no alligators.
Man, that makes it sound a lot dumber than it was in my head.
Dude, the movie is so dumb, but it was fun to watch such a ridiculous movie with a bunch of friends while we're all kind of cracking jokes about it.
Right. No, it really set the mood perfectly. Everyone in the film was fine. They all acted pretty scared. I thought it was hilarious. Some of the scenes when the alligator would give up the chase, like that really early scene where he's like busting through stuff, and then there's just like a couple of like metal pipes that he could easily squeeze through, and he's just like, whatever. It just wanders off. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be just one of those films that it's, as you say, you kind of have to just turn your brain off and just enjoy it. But it was a simple premise that was fun. Alligators are something I guess you don't really see a whole lot of in horror films, except for some of those that like take place in like the swamps or whatever. So it was kind of fun to see him in like a really small setting in a basement, and then in a convenience store where they were swimming around. That was fun, but definitely not a great film. But it's one of those films where it's fun to kick back a beer with a bunch of people and just make fun of it, and just set a good like tone for the beginning of the month.
I agree.
But, what about you, Gweedo? What's another film that you were kind of really into other than Host?
Man, we watched a few stinkers. I'll say that.
Oh yeah.
Actually, looking over this list, there weren't so much stinkers as they just weren't interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we watched some classics. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies, and watching it again, I've watched it several times in the past few years. It's really starting not to hold up well, and that's one that I watched with my daughter, who's 14, and I was like, she was kind of skeptical. She didn't want to watch a horror movie. She's afraid it was going to be too gory. And I was like, and what I did to explain it away, I was like, well, this movie was made before I was born, and it's like puppets. It's like puppet gore. Like
Right.
None of it looks real. And that is true when you're watching it now. And it's all practical effects, and they're cool. They're very cool, especially for the time that they were made, but it's just a bit dated at this point.
Gotcha. What was it, 70s? Is that when that was made?
I think it was 1981, maybe?
Okay.
It was early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. But good performances. There's the cool scene of where they're testing the blood and stuff like that. But I don't know what it is. And I knew this going into it because it happened last time I watched it. The sound mixing on that movie is so poor. Like the dialogue is so low, and all of the horror noises, this yelling, screaming music is super loud. So we had to watch it with subtitles on because it was just so poorly mixed. And
Wow.
that's a shame. I don't know.
Yeah.
But fun movie. Classic. And everyone should watch it just to see what those effects were back in the day. And practical effects have come a long way since then. And I wish more movies used them.
Totally agree. They hold up so much better. I mean, as you said, just now, what's that film? 30 years later, give or take, it's just now starting to look a little rough. That's incredible. I mean, there's horror films from a year or two ago that look like hot garbage now.
Yes, because of CGI, you got a ghost floating around or something.
Right.
Yeah, definitely get more shelf life out of those practical effects.
Absolutely. Well, very good. Milpool, you got any other film that you would like to chat about?
I don't know. I want to give a mention to one that we watched early in the month. It's called Uncle Peckerhead. I think
Hell
Gweedo
yeah.
might have chosen it. And
Hell yeah.
I just want to shout it out because a lot of people seem to hate it, but I found it. I thought it was kind of cute. It was charming. It seemed like it was maybe someone's first kind of big budget in quotations movie or something. I don't know. I don't know how much we want to talk about it. I just want to shout it out because it's a movie that I kind of still remember from that month.
Oh my God, I'd love to talk about it. That was our second film of the month. So we hit two bangers back to back. Uncle Peckerhead was
Here it comes.
No, Uncle Peckerhead was great. It's the story of this band needing to go and do some shows. They're trying to get into the scene. They lose their van, but they find this homeless guy who's living in a van, and he says, "Hey, I'll take you around." Little do we know that every night at midnight, he turns into a zombie and has to feast on a body of some kind, usually human. The only way he can keep that stuff suppressed is if he does heroin. And it's a great movie. Like, it's so much fun. A lot of practical effects, probably just because that's what the budget allowed. No, actually, in that room part, there was a lot of guts. They did a pretty good job in that room where he kills all the band members. But I agree with you, Milpool. I thought it was a fantastic first shot of a director. The only question I have, and I guess I would point to the director and the writing staff, is in the last 15 minutes, the tone of the film shifts drastically. It's kind of fun loving, like, oh, we've got this guy who's helping us. We're a little weary of him because we don't know who he is. Now we're really weary of him because he's killing people wherever we go because he's got to feed himself. But then he kind of becomes a loving character of the group. People enjoy being around him. But then it takes a turn where he becomes adversarial with them. I think it's around the time where the police kind of catch up to him, and he's like, "Oh, you guys better not turn me in, or I'll just kill everybody." And it just becomes a little dark very suddenly. And then, like, the very end of the movie, they're doing a show, and you just get a shot of the main singer's face and like all these like chaotic noises going on in the background, which sounds like he's just running around killing everybody, but you don't see it. And then the movie just ends. That was bold, very bold, because it did not keep with the rest of the movie. But it wasn't enough to ruin it. It was fun.
Yeah, that's one of my problems with it. Is it was a concept, and it was a fairly decent concept of having a punk band that's traveling, and they get a roadie that's a werewolf or a vampire or something that eats on people and how they react. But that's where it stopped. And then they were like, okay, now we've shot for so many days and we got to finish the movie. They're like, we'll just, turn them bad real quick. And then, they'll go to jail and then they'll get out and then they'll kill some people or something, whatever. It was disappointing in that sense. Cool concept, poorly executed. All the acting was horrible.
I thought it was charming.
It was charming. It was a good idea, but it was just like the execution of it was stilted. All the acting, like, it took him forever to say a sentence.
It was cute.
Forever. It wasn't.
Cute.
No,
I found it to be like tongue in cheek, where they weren't like, I don't know, like they knew they were in a movie. Like, everyone knew they were in a movie, and that's how they were playing it. Kind of. I understand what you're saying. Also, yeah, I completely forgot about the ending. The ending was not good. Maybe just like, if you watch that movie, just like once they get to the final venue, maybe just turn the movie off there.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it was weird. The part when Biggie was talking about it, like, the part I liked about it was that everyone is cool and nice. Like, they meet this homeless guy and you keep expecting him to like turn on them. And I guess eventually he does, but for the majority of the movie, like, he's cool and he's nice and he's trying to help them out, and the band is trying to help him out, and it's just like, it was cute.
Yeah. If you want to sit for 20 minutes for that one dude who might be gay to get through a short sentence, because his acting was horrible. The other girl was the definition of a trope of someone that's, full of angst, like a punk band member that's full of angst. Every word that she said was some sort of, kick in the nuts to society and how her heart is dark. And it was just like, I don't know, man. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good movie. Don't listen to those guys.
Oh man, no. I think I would, if I felt like if I was like some sort of like film professor or whatever, this would be a film I would show. Like, here's a really early film. If you had a budget of, I don't know, 20 grand or whatever, and this is the kind of movie you're going to shoot, watch this and see things that they did to make it charming, like what Milpool said, but also look out for the major, early filmmaker mistakes, like what Gweedo mentioned. It's a really good case study for, what's really good when you don't have a lot of resources and it shows, but make it charming, but steer clear of these mishaps. But I agree. As a film, it's a lot of fun. Don't pay. I hate to say not pay for it because, I want to see this guy move on. Don't pay too much to watch it. Pay a reasonable amount. But yeah, I think that was a good one. That was a good one. Well, there was one film I was honestly a little disappointed in because I'd never seen it before. I'd always heard really, really good stuff about it. And I don't know if it still holds the record or it's up there like one of the biggest box office draws or whatever. I'm not sure, but it was Sinister. That was the one with the Warrens, right? Hopefully I'm not getting my films confused.
Yeah, with Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
scientifically the most scary movie ever made.
And I do not get that.
Based on people's heart rates.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I do not get that because I saw that same thing before we watched it. I'm like, man, there's other films I've seen that are way scarier than this. It was suspenseful, but I wouldn't say to the point of I was like freaking out, couldn't watch the screen because a lot of it was so, you knew when a jump scare was about to happen. But either way, I don't know. I think I was overall kind of disappointed in the whole thing. Maybe it was for that reason. It all felt kind of like, oh, I know kind of what's going on. Of course, she's going to get possessed. That's not all that interesting. And maybe part of it has to do with, oh, shoot. What is that person's name? Ethan. Oh, no, I can't blame on Ethan Hawke. He honestly did pretty good. Maybe it was the rest of them I just didn't care for too much. I'm not sure. I'm torn about it because I felt like it would be more than what it was.
Yeah, I really liked I thought the horror parts in that movie, like when he's watching the films, were very creepy, and they were pretty well done. And the rest of the movie was kind of like, it was fine. But the whole movie, like the part that was pulling me through was like, oh yeah, watch, like please, like just get to where he watches another of the, like, I don't know what to call them, the murder porn or whatever he's watching. Right. I just thought they were really creepy and like well done.
Yeah, they were.
Yes.
That was a pretty neat aspect of it. And how, I guess, the ghost or whatever it was, the demon was messing with him, and us as the audience would see the demon and he would... It was neat in that sense. But, yeah, the whole family drama of it. Again, it's another trope that's just... And I found watching all these movies for the second year in a row, I see things coming. I get so focused on just the formula of a horror movie that it's not surprising anymore. Sure. And it's almost a shame, especially near the end when there's like, oh, this is a good one that I haven't heard of. People love this, but then I'm analyzing it in my stupid idiot brain. Like, okay, they just hit the kick drum twice. Now the snare is going to come, and then a big cymbal crash is going to happen. It's just, I can see all those beats are going to fucking happen. And it's a shame. I wish there were more crazy, unexpected horror movies, but that's the genre, I suppose. It's a horror movie because of the formula, right? I don't know. What comes first? The scares or the beats that they follow to hit those scares?
That's an excellent point. And maybe it's just preference, maybe some people, those beats, even if they might know that they're coming, it still just gets them. Maybe they're just a little more skittish and they just really enjoy that. It's kind of weird because horror just that really taps into a feeling that's just very sudden. Like, I guess the only other one I would point to is like laughter, like what you say, something that just happens so spontaneously, but you just bust a gut laughing just out of nowhere, and then turn it around the other side, scaring yourself shitless because of something that just happened. Maybe it's just personality, that it just has to tap into. Because for myself, and I'll just jump into this one real quick. We didn't watch this one during the 31 days. It's something we watched on Netflix. The Haunting of Hill House, Blythe Manor. It's the second season of the Hill House show, whatever. It doesn't start out scary, but after like the 6th or 7th episode, all these stories start building up and start connecting that I was getting kind of freaked out by the 7th episode because I have all this coming together. It's all subtle, but seeing the story continue, I was kind of scared to see where it's going to go next. So for me, it's more just getting scared by the story and not necessarily something jumping out and saying boo.
Right.
And I think I guess it just comes down to personal preference. But I definitely see what you mean there. Maybe that's what kind of killed me with Sinister is you could tell. But the film thing, I agree. I would almost just want to sit and just watch like 30 or 40 minutes of just a bunch of those little short films because they were really, really creepy, scary, and very cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I agree.
Awesome.
Well, that's horror movies, huh?
That is. If we could talk about just one last one, unless you guys have another one you want to talk about.
I have a non-horror movie that I'd like to bring up.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump in that one. Get a little palate cleanser.
The other day, we watched Bad Education, which came out this year. It stars Hugh Jackman and, God, I can't think of her name. Allison Janney? Is that right? I don't know. Big-eyed lady. You know her.
Right.
And it's about a school administrator who is embezzling money, and Hugh Jackman, who is the superintendent of the schools, having to deal with the embezzlement. And
based on a true story.
Yeah, based on a true story. We're talking millions of dollars from a school district, which is crazy. And it was billed as a comedy. I think the trailer, right, Milpool, even says Hugh Jackman comedy.
Yeah, yep.
Which that's not true. There's funny moments in it, but it's not a comedy movie at all. It's very much a drama, and I liked it a lot. That one has stuck with me out of the movies that we've watched recently as being one of the better ones. All around, all the performances are great. You're totally invested in the characters, especially Hugh Jackman and what is going on with him. And you just want to see everything resolved and what happens. I was into it. I highly suggest it.
Yeah.
One of the better movies to come out this year, in my opinion.
Ooh, wow.
Came out in 2019, but...
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Dang. Well, one of the better movies to come out within the calendar, within a year from this point. It probably came out late 2019.
Wow. Yeah. No, I would definitely second that. Hugh Jackman's just fantastic in anything he's in, and he definitely seems like a school superintendent in this film. And it's got a bunch of very interesting plot points, especially later in the film. So I definitely don't want to spoil it because it's worth watching. And so I agree with everything Gweedo said. Check it out.
Yeah, agreed. And Ray Romano is in it too, and I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he was all like, "Hey, where's all the money going? Hey, you guys, have you seen where the money is?"
My older brother Robert probably took it.
Yeah, but maybe not. He is a police officer. I'll have him arrest you if I find out that it was you that took the money.
Oh, my ma's trying to make me eat her lasagna. Ma, what are you doing?
I don't want to eat it anymore. I had it last week. And my wife with these kids, I tell you, oh boy.
Wow, you guys do a really good impression of him.
Thanks. That's
I
how
don't think
me
I
and
could pull
Milpool
that
talk to each other when we're not on podcasts.
off.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, Milpool, did you have any other non-horror film that you've seen recently that you wanted to chat about?
No, I'm good. I watched that first Star Trek movie with you, and I have no history with Star Trek, but I'm excited to watch some of the originals. The first one I found a little dry, but I'm going to keep watching them.
Sure. No, definitely. Yeah, I found, like what I said when we were chatting about it, I kind of grow into more appreciation of it now that I'm older, but it's always been the most boring one to me because, you know, it's definitely an old style sci-fi film. It's like an episode of Star Trek, you know, but pushed for 2.5 hours, however long it is. So it is a rough one, but Wrath of Khan definitely moves a lot quicker. So, and all three films after that are all connected. So it's a fun little story that happens.
Yeah.
So
The thing that I thought, or that I saw that was weird is like the TV series ended, I think, in like 69. And then that first movie that we watched came out in 79, 10 years later.
Yeah.
That's
Star
so
Trek
strange to me.
It is. It was so weird. It was canceled because of ratings, but then in syndication, it developed a cult following, and then that's why they were actually going to start the show over again with all the characters, but then they decided to do a movie instead. So that's why the film started. But yeah, it was saved in syndication. It's funny. There's a movie, I think it's called Trekkies, where they kind of talk to the fans and talk to the creators and kind of give a little inside baseball of what was going on then. They talked about the first TrekCon. I forget what they called it. They were only expecting like 5,000 people at most. It's going to be tiny. And it ended up being like 20 or 30,000. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing because the show was getting so popular in syndication. Then that's when they decided to do the film, and the film did really well. So it's kind of fascinating, you know. Star Trek is such a, you know, it's not, I guess, not insane mainstream, but you know, it's definitely an incredibly popular and iconic TV show. And it's kind of amazing to think that after 3 seasons it was canned, and now it's turned into a really prized possession for CBS. It's a fascinating history behind it. But yeah, I had we had watched a film. It was outside of our 31 days, but it's one that I was very, very excited seeing. Gweedo was excited to see as well. And it's called Possessor. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about it, Gweeds. I don't know. I think you were there too, Milpool. You watched it as well.
Yeah, I saw it.
I think it's just one of those films where in concept, I really, really loved it. But in execution, it had some problems. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, the story around it is there's a company that in order to do hits, they possess a person that's usually pretty close to whoever their target is, and then they take them out. But in this particular case, the lady has issues staying in control of the person who she has possessed for the hit, and it flips where she is now being possessed by the possessor. Or do I have that right? Yeah, I think that's right. It's close enough. And it gets really, really trippy because they start battling for who has control over this body, and madness ensues. And so sounds awesome. And there's some pretty freaky and interesting visuals, like when she takes over the person, that like weird transition that happens.
Yeah, that was
really,
cool.
Really cool. Oh, so cool. Yeah, and there's other really neat moments that happen that it just leaves you like, ooh, what's happening? But thinking back on it, I think like, oh, that was really cool. But watching it, I was like, this is neat. But I was trying to like wait for it to get better. And it just never quite got to the level I think the material was there for. Like it could have gone so much better, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's frustrating because the concept is really, really cool.
It is cool. my disappointment kind of was because people hyped up the visceral gore that I'd experienced watching this, and I was like, oh man, I want to watch some people get their heads bashed in and stuff. And that does happen, but it only happens, it's doesn't happen a lot. And even when it does happen, it's not that great.
Oh, I thought the gore was really well done. Like, it's pretty disgusting in parts.
It is disgusting, but I guess I just thought there'd be more. I thought there'd be more killing. They'd be possessing people left and right, but it pretty much follows one possession and the inevitable kill of it. Yeah. I guess that's where my disappointment lies.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like, the concept is so cool. There's so much interesting stuff, but they just don't do anything with it. Like, I wish they showed more of her. Like, she's basically an assassin, but she only possesses 2 people in the movie. Like, they kind of set it up with the first assassination when she's in that woman's body, and she pulls off the assassination. And the concept is, I guess, that she has to kill herself to, like, jack out of the Matrix or whatever. But she can't do it. Like, she puts a gun in her mouth and she just, like, can't physically pull the trigger. It's like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, there's a backstory. Like, why can't she do it? But she has to do it because, like, they explain it like, oh, that's like her brain will get fucked up if she doesn't kill herself to get out. But they don't do anything with it. And, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just wasted.
Fun fact, this movie was made by Brandon Cronenberg, who you may guess is David Cronenberg's son. Do you know David Cronenberg?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, did he do Sliders?
Scanners,
right?
Yes, which there's a lot of that visualization. You can see where he gets it from. His father, also Existence. And then, David Cronenberg made great movies like History of Violence and Eastern Promise, which is one, besides Lord of the Rings, one of my favorite Viggo Mortensen movies.
Yeah, History of Violence is dope. Such a good movie. Yeah, I think this is the case where I want a less competent director and less competent writer managing this movie, because I agree with you, Guido. All I ever heard was it was gory, it would like make you cringe, and it's definitely there, but not as much as I was expected, because I was hoping it'd be more like a serial killer, like he just keeps hacking into people and murdering them. So it just constantly this mayhem happening where you don't know who's real and who's not, and they just die in front of you and just murder whoever is in front of them. Just madness, where madness does happen, but not to that scale. It's very isolated, which is fine. It's just I can't really call this a horror film, in my opinion. I think it's definitely more it leans into that thriller, just with some
it's a sci-fi thriller, definitely.
Yeah, where it felt like it was billed as a horror film, but still, it's not bad. Very good, beautiful visuals, great shooting, awesome acting. I just want the concept in a shittier person's hands.
Very well said.
I don't think I've ever said that before. Usually it's the other way around. Well, guys, as I said earlier on, if you guys want to share your thoughts, please send us emails. We love emails. Shoot it to justokmovies@gmail.com. Tweet us at justokmovies. Make sure to join Discord. We got movies going all the time. There's another movie playing tonight. I think it's Robin Hood Men in Tights. Classic. So if you enjoy watching films with a bunch of people, you're missing out if you're not in Discord. So please join. Fellas, thank you so much for joining me in this. I gotta say, the 31 days of October of watching films was just awesome. So much fun. Thank you, Gweedo. Thank you, everyone who hosted films, who got everything organized. It was an absolute blast. Enjoyed it thoroughly and cannot wait for next October.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, Milpool, you're always welcome, my friend. Anytime. Well, guys, you all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.